Ran Zheng had already built a storied career at Amgen when she took the biotech dive with Orchard Therapeutics, where she served as CTO for a few years before being tapped on the shoulder as hire number one at Landmark Bio in 2021. I'm Matt Pillar.
And I'm Ben Comer.
And this is the Business of Biotech JP Morgan edition.
We're here in San Francisco with Ran for a talk on how she's applying a diverse history of biologic therapeutic development experience to her role at Landmark, building and deploying next-generation cell and gene therapy manufacturing technology. Ran, thanks for joining us, and it's great to see you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I know it's a very busy week for you, so I appreciate you coming along to spend some time with us. And I want to get the show off the ground here by talking a little bit about you specifically. As I noted, you were Landmark's first hire, which is pretty cool. I'm sure there's a pretty interesting story there because the company's grown substantially in subsequent years. But what were you doing prior, and why did you kind of take that leap to Landmark?
Yeah, great question. I have been very fortunate to work with a great group of people at a great company. Spent 16 years at Amgen, worked in different products, in different functions. The last few years while I was with Amgen, I had opportunity to touch on some unique modalities, neoantigen, oncolytic virus, siRNA. I was awestruck by this new class of medicine and the transformative potential those medicines can bring to patients. I worked on a lot of biologic products. Most of them are treatment, not cure. Some of the cell and gene therapy products have a curative potential and they're once and done and allow patients to live normal life. It's just amazing. And I want to see more of those products on the market. And I also observed some gaps in the development and the commercialization of cell and gene therapies. And I thought a lot what we have learned in biologics development and commercialization can be applied to this field and help accelerate the development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, many of those gaps remain. I want to pause there for a minute and talk about some of those gaps.
Yeah.
Many of those gaps remain gaps around manufacturability for one, but then beyond manufacturability, when we get past that hurdle, distribution, administration. Did you feel like Landmark might give you an opportunity to play a role in kind of addressing those challenges too, or?
Yeah, maybe I'll also pause a moment and to maybe kind of a recap and regroup my thought here. So I wouldn't call it Landmark Bio gave me the unique opportunities. Maybe what I could just anchor on what Landmark Bio was set up to do is to remove some of the bottlenecks in the early days of cell and gene therapy development. And what the opportunity we have there is not just just from the technology perspective, but also really partner with other companies to help address some of the challenges we have seen in this space. So maybe what I can, if you can just let me know what some of your questions.
Oh, I know. I pulled that one out of left field. So we
no. I have not seen the briefing because I know. Kathy said that you have some briefing, but I didn't get a chance to.
Oh, that's all right. That's okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: when you so you left Amgen for Landmark, Landmark being a startup, was there any trepidation or concern around making the jump from such an established company to, I mean, I understand the intent.
Right. Yeah, no, well, Landmark Bio is not my first startup company.
Okay, so you had...
Yeah. So it was actually the third startup company, but the second after Amgen experience. Vulture Therapeutics was also a young company.
Yeah.
When I joined, I wouldn't call it a startup. It has about 150-ish people maybe when I joined. So, but it's a much smaller company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What did bring you to Landmark Bio? Did you know Alan Garber before joining? How did you land there?
I don't know Alan Garber.
You don't?
Before. No, I don't. So it was probably a cold call from a recruiter. But I have read the initiative, so I learned a little bit about what they try to do. I thought they have a very unique value proposition and it's great purpose, and they're trying to do something to close the gaps, and I'm willing to help.
Yeah.
You also, I think, worked to improve the manufacturing function while you were at Amgen. Correct me if I'm wrong. Were there learnings that you brought from Amgen to your positions after that, including Landmark?
Yeah, I started at Amgen as a process development scientist, and I worked in different functions in PD, manufacturing, quality, and supply chain. There are a lot of learnings in biologic development, particularly in the CMC space, and many of those learnings are applicable, including understanding of products and understanding the quality attributes, understanding how the processes affect those quality attributes, and ultimately potentially impact the outcome of the products. It's very important. There are a lot of fundamental learnings that we have gained over the past 2 decades are applicable to this new field. So that's why, when I joined Landmark Bio, even though the company is very much oriented towards biomanufacturing to provide services and to partner others, I have built a team with people come from pharmaceutical industry, have done years of work in development and commercialization of biologics.
Mm-hmm.
Because not just the experience in development, but also understanding how the development should be done.
Yeah. Is it the fundamentals that best translate? I'm curious because I hear this frequently, like, we can't, as we improve the cell and gene manufacturing paradigm, we should lean into things that we've learned along the way in more traditional biologics. Is that sort of a, stick to the fundamentals conversation, or are there specific, I guess, process or manufacturing steps or lessons that translate from things like antibodies and vaccines to the cell and gene manufacturing?
Yeah, we're really getting deep in that space, right? So there is a fundamental kind of principles on how to develop a manufacturable process. We're talking about the manufacturability of the process, the scalability of the process, and the transferability of the process. Those fundamentals are the same. The principles are the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a very different modality. You have to apply the principles and maybe understand your modality.
Yeah.
And go from there. Yeah.
What would you say if you, looking back on the past 4 years at Landmark, how would you sort of characterize or quantify the progress that Landmark has contributed to addressing some of these challenges?
Yeah. So two of the unique major challenges in cell and gene therapy space are, first one is the logistical challenges, what we call it logistical challenges for patients. 8 out of 10 patients who are eligible for CAR T therapies are not able to get to the CAR T therapies because they just don't have the access. The second challenge is probably more on the company side, on the business side, the financial challenges. It takes a lot of capital to develop, manufacture, deliver the products. But with the high cost of manufacturing, cost of goods, that translates to a lower margin and a lower return on investment. So I think that challenges need to overcome so that the therapies can benefit more patients. So what the Landmark Bio has done in the past few years since its launch is, this is public knowledge. We partner with Galapagos, a European cell therapy companies, and work with them to establish distributed manufacturing network. We are their first biomanufacturing partner in United States, and the goal for distributed manufacturing is to make the CAR T products close to where patients are. Many U.S. patients, even today, if they want to get access to CAR T products, and they have to travel to where the treatment centers are established, usually in major cities like Boston, San Francisco, New York cities. But if you live some other places, it's difficult for a patient to get the treatment. Distributed manufacturing make the products closer to where patient lives, so patient can receive treatment close to where they live. So I think that's one thing that we have been working with them for a couple of years, a little bit over a year now.
Yeah.
The second challenge we're talking about is how you could reduce cost of goods. Cell and gene therapy today, most of them are ex vivo cell therapies. They take materials from patients who are donors, their cells, and doing gene modification and give back to patients. And that process is very complex. It also deals with live cells, and the products is also very complex. There are a lot of constraints in supply chain, and that all lead to higher cost of goods and a lower net margin, which is challenging. If you can only imagine that there's a way to turn the complex ex vivo cell products into something more like biologics, and you can give patients just like biologic injectables or IV products. And how many more patients would be able to benefit? How much lower the cost of products that could be? So one of the technological innovation area that we have been focusing on is non-viral gene delivery to be able to achieve this kind of in vivo CAR T. To leverage human body to make the products inside of the human to lower the cost of goods.
It's this may be a very naive question, but theoretically, when I think about distributed manufacturing, it occurs to me that would actually exacerbate in some ways that cost of goods and cost of distribution, supply chain, those supply chain issues. It seems like it would exacerbate that problem, like make it worse, because now we're taking, a few manufacturing nodes and multiplying them across the country. How do you rationalize that?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you don't have the technologies to support that kind of distributed manufacturing network, that could increase cost of goods. So manufacturing technology platform and the supply chain platform Galapagos is deployed allow manufacturing process to be very efficient, and it's very easy to tech transfer. It's closed process, 7-day vein-to-vein, electronic batch record. So you manage information data flow electronically. Everything is standardized. So I definitely see that is not your yesterday's distributed manufacturing where everything is, manual and less standardized, because it's highly platformed, it's standardized. It will reduce the errors through the transfer. It would help reduce the human errors, improve the consistency. Of course, this is something that's very new, and we will have to see in the next few years how that will work out. But we're very optimistic for that.
Yeah.
When distributed manufacturing, is that satellite manufacturing centers that are more spread out? Is it actually on site, like at a healthcare delivery center, where that happens?
Yeah, no, it's not at the bedside yet. It's in a GMP manufacturing facility that close to medical center.
And those are rapidly expanding in number at this point, or is that the goal eventually?
Well, the goal eventually is to establish many manufacturing capabilities near the medical centers where you can make the products.
And if you can standardize that process and make it really efficient, to your point, then that's how you get around raising the cost of goods.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you addressed that, you talked about the process development lessons that can be learned from more traditional biologics. And I think the last time you and I chatted, you had mentioned that there's often a gap in early stage processes coming out of academia needing to be sort of redeveloped when they make clinical progress, much less commercialization progress. So tell me a little bit about that. Like, how has Landmark contributed to the academic exercise of moving from academia to a commercially viable business? And is that driven by industry, or is academia driving that as well? Sort of what's the lay of the land there?
Yeah, what we have seen in this field in the past 20 years, particularly in cell and gene therapies, the innovations almost exclusively always started in academic centers or small biotech companies where the science drive, how the products been developed and made, but not a lot of considerations. If you have to make the products not only for one patient, two patients, but hundreds, thousands, millions of patients. So what we have seen a lot of early cell and gene therapy products are based on laboratory protocols that could work, for a fewer number of patients, but it does not drive consistency and robustness, and that will lead to some repeated work later on. So what we have seen is that some early phase clinical trials conducted at an academic setting. One, the proof of concept, the clinical results is outstanding, but the process is not robust enough and is not suitable for larger clinical trials or commercialization. What it ends up to be is that you repeat those clinical trials. And that is a lot of waste.
A lot of money.
A lot and a lot of time, right? Yeah. So what we do is that we work with the principal investigators from academia or the startup companies, we help them to understand what is the ultimate goal for the development is to bring this drug to market. And in order to that and to do that, we need to make sure that the processes of manufacturing the products is robust and can deliver reliable, a consistent product quality. So with that end in mind, to design the manufacturing processes, the materials, and to source the materials, the starting materials for the manufacturing processes, in the early days, so that you get some kind of a standardization to make the process more suitable for commercial use, less changes that you have to make later on. That will reduce some of the kind of a wasted work.
Our friends at Alston & Bird set us up with some amazing space to record during JPM week. The firm's national healthcare and life sciences practice has more than 100 attorneys actively involved in the healthcare industry across the full spectrum of legal disciplines. The signature strength of this practice is its ability to master complex representations that draw on the coordinated expertise of its regulatory, compliance, public policy, transactional, corporate governance, securities, FDA, biotech, IP, government investigations, and litigation practice areas. Alston & Bird represents life sciences companies and their partners in corporate stages, ranging from private to newly public to well-established, and in a variety of stages of product development from preclinical to post-approval commercial launch. Learn more at alston.com and tell them you learned about them on the Business of Biotech.
Is that something you would characterize, I guess, as kind of Landmark Bio's sweet spot, being able to take a process in academia or a process in a small startup and help to standardize it and make it into something that could be scaled commercially? Is that, do you see that as your kind of primary aim?
It's definitely one of the unique feature for Landmark Bio and the competitive advantage for us as well. I probably mentioned a little bit earlier. We were in this space, provide CMC services to a lot of our partners. The people that we build most of them are from drug development companies. So this is an organization built by drug developers for drug developers. So we understand what it's really gonna take to develop the processes, develop the product, and get to the market. It definitely help our clients and our partners to minimize some of the, I would say, the pitfalls and the unfortunate errors that many others made in the early days.
Yeah.
Do the challenges faced by a cell or gene startup vary a lot, or are there some key challenges that you mentioned? For example, non-viral vector delivery as something that I think you're working toward, and it also represents a hurdle for the sector. Are there other areas that are continue to be challenges that that developers and Landmark Bio are working to overcome?
There are a lot of challenges. First of all, cell and gene therapies are such a broad category. We tend to lump them together, but cell and gene therapies, including cell therapies, including gene modified cell therapies, viral vectors. So there are some unique aspects of the challenges. It depends on the different specific modalities. For example, when we talked about the viral vector in the AAV space, the titer, the purity, definitely is one of the challenges from the CMC perspective. but from efficacy perspective, the capsid and the design of the capsid, there are a lot of unique challenges. We're certainly not doing everything to address all the challenges over there, and we want to focus on the things that we believe that can move the needle.
Yeah.
For example, we think cell therapy is gonna stay. There are already blockbuster autologous cell therapies are there. If we can make those therapies better, and if we can manufacture them faster and cheaper, that will allow patients or provide better access to patients, just at least from manufacturing perspective. That's really our approach. We're very optimistic in the non-viral gene delivery space because we truly believe if we can turn the complex product into relatively simpler product, easier to manufacture, easier to deliver, that will really change the field.
Yeah, you're in an interesting space because in many ways you have a firsthand look at not just innovation, but business volume, right? And I've had a couple of conversations today with cell and gene therapy leaders who talk about sort of the ebb and flow of the economic interest, the finance community's interest in gene therapy, I guess more specifically. What's your take on that from your perspective? Given that you see the innovation firsthand, you see the volume of interest in manufacturing services firsthand. Do you have a good feeling heading into 25 that business will be robust on the innovation and funding scale, or is there any cause for concern?
I am a firm believer of cell and gene therapies and the transformative potentials this class of therapies can bring to patients. And it's already beyond the proof of the concept. The challenges we're facing is, from business perspective, is that yes, we have seen the benefit on patients, but we want to see more patients being benefit by this new class of medicine. Look, the innovation has no value if it does not reach to patients.
Yeah.
I think that's really the fundamental challenges over there. Right now, we want this class of therapies to be able to reach broader patient population. And in order to that, there are some technological hurdles that we have to overcome. But I think the science is proven and is validated in human. We know it works, and we know it has curative, transformative potential, and it's on us to make this work.
Yeah. It's interesting to me too. Like you said, the cell and gene therapies is a sort of a basket term for a whole bunch of different approaches. How does a company like Landmark ensure that you have the expertise, not just the capacity, but the expertise to stay on top of all this stuff?
Yeah. We set up our business to have quite a broad capabilities. So we're not just focusing on cell therapies or gene therapies. So we have capabilities in cell, gene, and messenger RNA for a couple of reasons. One reason is we think this field is still early and the winners are yet to emerge, and we have seen the field moving from ex vivo to in vivo because we think that's where the field is going. But we need to start in ex vivo, and we want to capture the current opportunities, but still with eye towards the future. And that's how we set up. And there are a lot of spaces, a lot of areas we can innovate, and we definitely not try to do everything. And as I mentioned, that as I mentioned, that some places that we try to innovate as for example, non-viral gene delivery, we think that's the area that we should focus on because it addresses the underlying issues for cell and gene therapy. You got to be able to deliver the genetic material to the right cells, and that's what we need to focus on.
Yeah.
What kind of delivery? What sort of delivery materials, I guess, are leading the charge in that area to get away from viral vectors?
So we are looking into nanoparticle technologies. Lipid nanoparticle is one aspect. We also have other non-lipid nanoparticles.
Is that does the innovation there in terms of delivery vehicles tend to happen from within, or is it largely influenced by the developers that you're working with? Innovation coming from the sponsor community?
Well, we have seen both, but in that space, I think we see the opportunities that the sponsors would rely on their partners to bring the technologies. What we have seen more and more is that sponsors focusing on what inside of the particle, what inside that encapsulation,
Right.
which is the design of the RNA, the design of the DNA, and what the capabilities we bring in is more of how we could take those DNA or RNA or oligos and package them in a way that they can get to the right cells and the right tissues.
Yeah. Do you have you noticed any particular energy being devoted to developing delivery technologies that seek targets that are in places that were difficult or impossible to get to before, like the blood-brain barrier, different organs? Is there a sort of a movement afoot there? Or?
Yeah, people try to deliver the targeted genes to muscles, to different cell types, because the current technologies, if you give the current lipid nanoparticle technology, formulations, most of them go to the liver. Yeah. Lung is another space where I see a lot of development.
Yeah.
Do you have a sense of the broad, I guess, cell and gene sector and how much it collaborates? I'm thinking of 25 years ago with monoclonal antibodies. I think there were some companies at a kind of pre-commercial basis that would share knowledge and work together to try to bring that functionality forward. Is there a similar effort in cell and gene that you're aware of? I mean, is Landmark Bio working as a convener of sorts between different companies and helping to fill those gaps?
Yeah, we're part of the NIMBLE, which is a consortium. They have a lot of initiatives in cell and gene therapy space. A lot of work being done in the AAV space. It's a pretty competitive space where people can share knowledge and experience.
Okay.
Yeah. What are you most excited about in terms of the cell and gene space? You talked about your excitement for the transformative, opportunity, right? The patient opportunity in cell and gene leading you to Landmark. Now you've been there for 4 years. Looking ahead, another 4 years perhaps, or even year. What are you most excited about?
The opportunities ahead of us. I'm very excited about the opportunities in the front of us where we can really make a difference. It took about 10 years to have a blockbuster of monoclonal antibodies early days. And we already have a few blockbusters of cell and gene therapy on the market and start benefiting patients, and that is very exciting for us. And also the amount of innovation in this space, what we have seen is unprecedented. That is something that we're very excited about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your goals for JP Morgan, if you have any that are specific to this conference?
My goal for JPM Week is really to connect with the industry peers, the colleagues, potential partners, and collaborators, exchange ideas, explore collaboration opportunities, and really discuss the trend where we're going as an industry, as a sector. It's a very exciting week.
Yeah. Where did you come in from? Are you right? Are you in the San Francisco area?
No, I am based in Boston, but I also have a house in Southern California.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I actually came from the LA area.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this episode will drop more than likely in February, sometime in February, so a few weeks from now. But as we sit right now, things aren't looking that great in LA. I'm hoping that everything's okay where in your neighborhood.
Yeah, everything is okay in my neighborhood. We're fortunate, but it's very challenging time.
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, safe travels, and thank you for spending, like I said, some of your very busy week with the Business of Biotech. I appreciate you coming on the show, and it's great to get insight. Great to get insight from a leader in the cell and gene manufacturing space, given all the questions and challenges that are ahead. So we appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
So that's Landmark Bio CEO Ran Zheng. I'm Matt Pillar.
And I'm Ben Comer.
And you just listened to the Business of Biotech from JPM 2025.
Listen and subscribe whenever or wherever you listen to podcasts or take in our videocasts at Bioprocess Online and Life Science Leader. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.